Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Bengals Insiders podcast. I'm here today with Sam and Micah, and we are talking free agency once again. It's been a whirlwind few days. It's been a whirlwind few hours. So let's jump straight into it. The Bengals moves is what we will get started off with today. Obviously, the two big moves were signing the two cornerbacks. Chidobe Awuzie from the Dallas Cowboys on a 3-year, $21.75 million deal, and cornerback Mike Hilton from the Pittsburgh Steelers for 4 years at $24 million. Bengals also re-signed safety / more notably kick returner Brandon Wilson on a 2-year deal, and notably also William Jackson is no longer a member of the Cincinnati Bengals. He is headed to the Washington football team on a 3-year, $42 million deal. So I will hand it over to Sam or Micah now, and they will start to discuss, kind of what are your guys' thoughts for, free agency as we head into these next couple days. What are you guys looking for? What do you like about what the Bengals have done over the past 2 nights?
Yeah, so I'll start talking about Brandon Wilson. I think that's sort of an underrated signing. I think people in Cincinnati sometimes don't appreciate how good he is as a kick returner. You're talking about spending pretty minimal amount of money to get a guy who, on average is probably 5-10 yards better returning kicks overall than the replacement level player in the league. And that's a big deal when you're talking about getting 5-10 yards better field position every time you get the ball on offense. And you're probably spending less than 1% of what the cap space is. That's pretty phenomenal. It's a pretty good signing.
Brandon Wilson, he's fantastic. And there were, several times during the year, especially towards the second half of the year, where it looked like on every kick return, he might have a touchdown. And Erickson, he flashed that in the preseason, and obviously he was still better than Tate, who he replaced. But just having that, electricity and that potential of where our special teams can do something and, go from above average to great is huge. And, especially at, the price of, $4 million a year is a bargain.
Yeah. So I misinterpreted that statistic. It's about 5% of the cap space, but still, that's a really small. You're getting a good player on 2 of the 3 different areas of the field. So really, really good signing. And then also to go out and get Mike Hilton and Chidobe Awuzie, those are 2 really solid players. Neither of them are at the same level of William Jackson, but you weren't going to get William Jackson in a deal that was team friendly. And just him signing 3 years, $42 million sort of proves it. That was supposed to be the cold market. If that's a cold market, I don't know what a warm market looks like, because that's a lot of money. And to get Awuzie and Hilton for less combined than William Jackson III is tremendous. This is a team sport. You're as strong as your weakest link. And the weakest link had tended to be in the secondary on defense, pass rush in the secondary. And so to fill both of those holes is really, really valuable.
Especially since, Mike Hilton's probably the first upgrade we've had on so far in free agency. Awuzie, best case scenario, he's, similar, if not slightly better production than Jackson at a cheaper price, which is nice. But Mike Hilton's one of the best corners, and especially it feels even better to pull a former Steeler away from the Steelers and weaken them and, continue on our winning streak against the Steelers. But, Awuzie, I've heard a lot of fans from the Cowboys say that he wasn't used correctly. So hopefully, coming into Lou Anarumo's scheme, which seems to be more zone heavy, that should help him find a home and, maybe get some better production out of him. And he's only 26, so, his best years are still ahead.
Yeah, certainly. And you lock him up until, that 3-year deal. He's going to come out of that deal, he could be at 29. That's sort of it's the tail end of the prime. You might be able to get him on another deal, looking into the future. That's going to be similar, depending on how he plays in Cincinnati, which is fantastic.
Yeah, one other thing that I didn't mention in that little opening is another former Bengal is gone in wide receiver John Ross. he is heading to New York, and he's heading to the Giants on a 1-year, $2.5 million deal. Not a big surprise that he's gone. But just throw it back to you guys real quick. What are your kind of predictions for the next few days? There's still plenty of big names out there on the market. Both of you, I'll hand it to Sam first. What do you guys think are going to, what do you think the Bengals are going to try and do, or with kind of what they can? Will we see cuts? Will we see, more names come in? What do you guys think?
Well, first of all, I just want to say, I think Cincinnati can thank John Ross. It didn't work out the way that we thought it was, but, I think collectively we all wish him the best in New York. We wish that he can kind of make the career that we all thought he would be. So we wish the best for John Ross. But I think looking into the future, I think you're going to see a lot more signings in coming days, because you're going to see that B and C tier of players is going to have a pretty significant market freeze. You've seen a lot of really top talent signed for more money that really makes any sense, 20, 30%. I mean, in the case of Carl Lawson, 50% growth on what people thought we were going to be signing him for. And so that's got to come out somewhere. Either it's going to come in the back end, years down the line, or it's going to be a market freeze in the next couple of days. And I don't think that, the vast majority of the teams in this league are collectively stupid enough to put that off until 2023, 2024, and to all ride the same boat. So I think you're going to be looking at a market freeze in that B and C tier, and I think the Bengals can take advantage because they still have a lot of holes to fill and not a lot of time. And this is going to play right into their hands. So look forward to a very, very exciting next couple of days. Even if the signings aren't necessarily super exciting, there are going to be a lot of really quality signings in the future.
See, I think we could actually have some exciting signings, because if you look at it, the league year starts, as we're recording this, starts tomorrow. And, with everyone having to get under the cap, there's going to be a lot of big names that are cut. I mean, the Bengals, we could see Bobby Hart, maybe Geno Atkins, Xavier Su'a-Filo. We could see players get cut. And I mean, we've already seen that with, Rodney Hudson, which is one of the best centers in the league, and the Bengals should immediately go after him. I mean, as much as we love Trey Hopkins, his best years were when he was a guard, not a center. In addition, I mean, there's Trey Turner, who would be wonderful. Ricky Wagner would be wonderful as well, although he's a little old, but it would be nice to have him as a bookend for the tackles. And then if we could get Curtis Samuels, I think everyone would flip completely on their outlook for this free agency. But I'm excited to see what the Bengals can do. And with the money they have, there's no excuses.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got to start spending now, because if they don't spend now, they can spend now and they can kind of glide out and they can make sure that they're going to be competitive for years to come. But if they don't spend and if they don't win in the next couple of years, I think the hope and the confidence in that team is going to decline pretty sharply, and the chances of actually getting a window are pretty slim.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the offensive line, because a lot of Bengals fans are kind of panicking over the fact that we haven't really, as of yet, signed a major offensive line player. Obviously, Joe Thuney went to Kansas City on a big money deal, and a couple of the other big-name free agents found homes elsewhere. But there's still, as you mentioned, plenty of decent to good offensive line players that are still out there. Trey Turner's a guy that I love. I think Rodney Hudson is a dude that could completely change the outlook on the offensive line. He is a top-of-the-line center. And, he was a cap casualty for the Raiders. And he's a guy that we could definitely look at to sign. And I don't think any player that we sign right now would get this fan base more energized than Curtis Samuel. The skill players that we have, they're the guys that make the money. They're the guys that are dancing in the end zone, celebrating touchdowns. And you bring in a guy like Curtis Samuel, who I talked about this last night with Braden when we were discussing free agent prospects. I love Curtis Samuel. I think he could just completely change the outlook on this offense. He could just add that third dimension that I don't know if we currently have yet. Just that downfield speed and the Swiss Army knife, kind of attributes that he has. He can line up all over the field. I think he brings so many new options to this team. So I would love Curtis Samuel. Any last thoughts from you guys before we wrap it up?
Yeah, stay tuned. This next couple of days, they're going to be really, really interesting. A lot of signings, a lot of cuts. And we'll be sure to have plenty of content to cover all of it. That's what you guys deserve.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's just going to be about enough for today. If you enjoyed this, make sure to like and comment down below, and make sure to subscribe, because as we've just mentioned, we're going to be churning out content. These next few days are going to be just as crazy as the past 2 days of free agency. And, as these days tick on, we're getting ever closer to April. We're getting ever closer to draft night. We're going to be churning out content all the way up to draft night. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Thanks for listening all the way through. And if you enjoyed, once again, leave a like, comment, subscribe down below. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.